Morning. Welcome to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church's in-person and online worship. Whether today is your first time here or you've been coming for years, we're so glad you're with us. My name is Emily O'Neill, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm a member of the family team. We are a growing community that transforms lives through the power of love. Our mission calls us to celebrate diversity, encourage spiritual growth, and promote social responsibility while we travel on and care for the earth. Welcome also to those at home who are joining us on Zoom. If you're attending for the first time, please go to our website and fill out our welcome card so we can know more about you. Now, we invite you all to take this opportunity to silence your cell phones so that we can be fully present to one another. After the service, please grab a cup of coffee in the kitchen window and stay for conversation. We encourage you to find someone you've never met before and introduce yourself. Those on Zoom, they stay on and connect with one another. And now let us center our hearts and minds with bringing up the time. Good morning, church. Good morning.
Not everybody.
Not everybody. We're aiming for interest to kind of balance this thing. So we'll incorporate that as just. My name is Reverend Tara, if we haven't met before, and my pronouns are she, her, and they, them. And I'm the transitional minister here at Allen Avenue Church. And we welcome all people to our faith community. And so whoever you are and wherever you are on your spiritual journey or your life journey, know that you are welcome here. This morning, I am excited to introduce you to my worship co-leader, Jane. Jane, maybe give a wave. Jane Makela is a member of the First Universalist Church in Yarmouth and a member of the MUSON, which stands for Maine UU State Advocacy Network Steering Committee, and co-chair of MUSON's Racial, Native, and Immigrant Justice Issue Group. She's also a delayed. Jane and I created this service together, and we will be reflecting today on the ways in which our UU faith calls us to the work of not just kindness and caring interpersonally, but to systemic change on behalf of liberation for all. As we settle into our time together this morning, I invite you to take a deep breath and to hear these opening words by Reverend Ashley Moran, Organizing Strategy Director.
Can you understand the song?
Descendants are beckoning us in, compelling us onward to greater connection, greater compassion, greater commitment to one another and to the earth. Together, we are resilient and resourceful enough to say yes. Make it our life's work in 1,000 different ways, knowing that we can do no other than bind ourselves more tightly together and throw ourselves into the holy work of showing up again and again, to be part of building that world of which we dream but have not yet seen. Come and be welcome. You are joyfully called.
Sarah, I grew up for just a moment and try to use my laptop mic to get something. Yeah, I'll put it up there.
My name is John Howard. My pronouns are he, him, and I am reading the chalice lighting for this morning. If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice.
We're dealing with a lot of stuff this morning.
And now we light a second candle this morning, a candle of community in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. May those in our midst who struggle with mental illness, as well as those who love and care for them, know that their lives matter and that they are not alone.
Dave and I are going to tell a story together. I might have heard this story before. I've changed a couple of details using my ministerial artistic license. So, once upon a time, there was a small village on the edge of a river. Life in the village was very busy and bustling. There were people growing food and people teaching the children to make blankets and people making meals. One day, a villager took a break from harvesting food and noticed trash floating down the river toward the village. They couldn't believe their eyes. They thought they had a community that didn't put trash in the river. They saw something shiny in the distance and looked downstream to see that there was more trash floating in the river. They looked around at the other villagers working nearby and they said, "Does anyone else see that garbage?"
One villager heard them, but continued working. "Yes," yelled another villager. "Oh, this is terrible," another shouted. "Look, there's even more upstream."
Indeed, there were 3 more pieces of garbage coming around the bend.
"How long has this garbage been floating by?" asked another villager. No one knew for sure, but some people thought they might have seen something in the river earlier. They were busy at the time and did not have time to investigate.
They quickly organized themselves to fish out the trash. Watchtowers were built on both sides of the shore, and swimmers were coordinated to maintain shifts of people to fish each piece of garbage out of the river so that none of them carried out into the sea.
The amount of trash floating down the river only seemed to increase. Villagers built dumpsters and trash cans for the garbage and created special nets for fishing it out.
They trained others to swim with the nets. That's complicated. So that they could keep fishing out garbage from their precious river. Meanwhile, life in the village carried on.
Then one day, at a meeting of the village council, a villager asked, "But where is all this garbage coming from?"
No one knows, said another villager. But I say we organize a team to go upstream and find out who's throwing this garbage in the river.
Not everyone was in agreement.
But we need people to help us pull the trash out of the river, said one villager. That's right, said another. Here to make sure that no trash makes it past our village and empties into the ocean if all of us go upstream.
The council chose to let the village decide. If you were a villager, what would your vote be? Do you send a team upstream?
Oh, yeah. think about this question and what you might do in this situation or what you have done in situations like it. Jade and I will share our reflections on this question later in the service. And then invite up Emily, who will invite up this morning's swim partner.
In a few moments, some of us will leave the sanctuary to go to religious education programming. But first, I invite our lamplighter Calvin to join me in the pulpit. The lamplighter is entrusted to transfer the light of the sanctuary chalice to the lamp and then go forth to RE spaces where they will light the chalices there. I invite those going to RE to follow the lamplighter as we carry the flame, expanding our sacred space.
To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise. Amen.
We are a freely gathered, open, and welcoming faith community supported by your contributions. Each week, 1/3 of our offering is given away to a nonprofit organization whose mission aligns with our Unitarian Universalist principles. This month's Share the Plate recipient is Youth and Family Outreach, a year-round, full-day early care and education program whose mission is to alleviate the effects of poverty on local families with young children through education and childcare. You can find more information in your order of service. Donations can be made now as the basket is passed through the donate button on our website, or if you are a member on Breeze. If giving through Breeze, please note if the donation is your pledge or a gift to our Share the Plate. If you are visiting us for the first time this morning, please know that your presence is your gift to us. At this time, our offering will be collected and gratefully received.
Good morning. My name is Nadine Chase Ortiz and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm reading Beyond the Zero Game by Nathan C. Walker. For centuries, insiders have been democratizing their religions. Incremental moments of institutional reform have led to a new era of theological enlightenment. From out of ancient times into the twilight of now, these reformers have made a sacred vow to never mischaracterize freedom as a zero-sum game. True freedom is not jealous. True freedom is not envious. True freedom is not spiteful. True freedom does not desire to restrict the rights of others. True freedom knows not a selfish thought, knows not how to threaten. To sense true freedom is to know that that your win is my glory, and that your suffering is inextricably tied to my own. For the sum of all that is holy shines far beyond the tools of our evolving democracy. From party jingles to picket signs, the sum of all that is holy is found in our collective desire to know freedom, not as a political slogan, but as a way of life. Thank you.
We'll build a land, we sung, where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. And I want to talk today about what it is that I believe is broken and how our shared faith, Unitarian Universalism, calls us to respond. My colleague, the Reverend Nancy McDonald Ladd, in her book, After the Good News, comments that it is easy to imagine that the work of the church is to cultivate our own souls so that we might bind up what is broken among other people. It is so much harder, she says, to acknowledge what is and has always been broken within ourselves. And I would add what is and has always been broken within our institutions, those we inhabit and those from which we benefit. The world is not full of broken people who need our help. The world we inhabit is made up of systems and structures that we created, that our ancestors created, and that we maintain, some intentionally and some not. And these systems and institutions break people. They marginalize people with certain bodies, skin colors, family structures, levels of education and wealth, and they privilege others. And I believe it is our institutions that are broken. And the injustice inherent in the way this plays out in our world breaks part of us too. Namely, if we are paying close attention, it breaks our hearts. Injustice breaks parts of all of us, though it breaks us differently. But we are not broken people. We are humans. Those on the margins of our society are on the margins because those of us who are at the center have failed to adequately root out that which marginalizes some and privileges others. White supremacy, patriarchy, consumerism, capitalism, heteronormativity, all big justicey words to describe a culture where some people are more important than others, or are of more value because they can produce more. The trash floats down the river, not because it needs to be there, or should be there, or because it originated there, but because something upriver is not okay, is not right, is sick. Probably something that was made by us. Almost certainly something that can be changed by us. And it is to this place, to this intersection between what we've made over time and our capacity to change it. It is to this place right here that Unitarian Universalism leads us. Reverend Ladd writes that among the difficult truths we are called to grapple with is the fact that oppressive power structures undergird every single era of progressive optimism in this country. The great institutions of liberal faith were and are inextricably interconnected with systems of supremacy, patriarchy, and oppression. Acknowledging this reality does not have to undo us. Acknowledging this reality does not have to undo us. But, she says, remaining insensate, and unrepentant in the face of it, just might do exactly that. Remaining insensate and unrepentant in the face of it just might do exactly that. And so here we are. And there will always be those of us more comfortable staying downstream. I believe that some of us are called to the particularities of helping work, of caring work. The helpers and the caregivers on the front lines of our world are ready to help the hurting among us, to bind up that which is broken inside themselves and inside other people. And this is an important and vital job that will always be crucial to the functioning and health of our society. And I believe that our shared faith calls us to work for a world where we need fewer people picking up the mess. That our faith calls us to look upstream at the systemic issues that impact the human family and our earth and all living beings we share this earth with. The systemic issues we have created, and that we have the power to reimagine with creativity and reinvent with our persistence. People that are willing to bind up the broken systems and structures and institutions. Those are our people. And to me, this is profoundly hopeful. Not because the work is easy or that we'll succeed. In fact, I'm not actually as interested in the outcome as I am in the effort. Not as interested in the future as I am in the here and the now. Not as interested in who won as I am in who fought like hell. And we have done this in the past, and we are doing this now, and we will continue to do this. Raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. May we make it so.
Amen. You know the same aphorisms I do. The best way to forget your own troubles is go help someone else. Or the only difference you can make is to act locally. Fix something within your immediate reach. I have heeded that advice and tried to meet needs right around me, doing pro bono legal work for asylum seekers and working with my congregation's social justice team on projects largely centered in the greater Portland area. That work has fed my soul, and it continues to do so. But bigger picture, I was sitting beside that metaphorical river, shaking my head at the sorry state of the world that we had so much garbage to contend with. Influencing the laws of this state, even with the tools of my trade and decades of legal experience, influencing those laws seemed about as likely as influencing the weather. It never occurred to me to set my sights on promoting justice and equity in Maine by changing the laws that advance or undercut it. That is, until I found MUSON, the Maine UU State Advocacy Network. One of the greatest threats to our democracy is the sense of powerlessness that pins us to the couch, convinced that government happens in some parallel universe, only to be reported to us after the fact on the nightly news. But in my 5 years with MUSON, I have discovered that powerlessness is in large part an illusion that can be dispelled by education, reliable information, and the use of available tools to make our voices heard by those who make our laws. One reason I couldn't see myself involved in changing Maine's laws was that I had almost no understanding of how Maine's laws are made. But Musan has assembled materials that explain that process and walk you through every step of various types of legislative advocacy activities. And I mean everything from how to look up your legislator's email address to where to park your car if you go to the State House in Augusta. Just go to musan.org, look for this series of brightly colored tiles, and follow the directions. Because Musan doesn't want to speak for Maine's 2,000 plus UUs. Rather, we want to equip and empower each of those UUs, each of you, to become activists yourselves, prepared to speak your own truth to power. And I hasten to add, if you are shuddering internally right now at the thought of having to stand at the podium in a State House hearing room and testify, no worries, though it's actually fun when you do it. You can speak from home by Zoom, or you can just submit your views, your testimony in writing, and we can even help you with the writing process. Or just skip the testifying part altogether if the idea still makes you feel faint. Legislative advocacy includes writing a letter to the editor about a bill, or sending an email or making a phone call to your legislator, or cornering one of them, as I've done multiple times, in the grocery store or the post office and telling them why you care about a particular issue or bill. Those are all ways we make our voices heard. Some UUs, I know, are reluctant to speak out because they feel they lack mastery over the subject area of the bill being heard, whether that's how rental subsidies work or the ins and outs of who qualifies for Maine care. The good news is no one in Augusta is looking to us for expertise on the technical substance of a bill. There are experts aplenty. They're all over the State House. The legislators know who they are. What we can uniquely add to the dialogue is the progressive, faith-based voice. And this is our legislative ministry, explaining why, as people of faith, we believe the bill's result would be morally right and just, or why it would be just the opposite. And we often hear from legislators saying how nice it is to hear from some part of the faith spectrum, besides the very well organized, very well funded, and very conservative Christian organizations that are in the State House all the time. They are old hands at this legislative advocacy business. We need to catch up. But you say, surely the composition of the current legislature means that any far-right legislative proposals that are put forward can't prevail. So why not say nothing? Just don't give any more attention to their ideas. That makes tactical sense in some circumstances. But I think history has exposed the danger of taking this ignore them and they will go away path. And when elected legislators propose bills that would restrict the rights of transgender youth in Maine, or make it illegal for teachers to include material that might make white students feel guilty about the racial oppression that has been this country's history, silence is not an acceptable response, even if those bills stand no chance of passage. I want the citizens who are paying attention to stand up, show up, and say, no, not in the Maine I want to live in. And when someone looks back at the history of those bills, and they'll be there, they'll be on the website for all of recorded time. When someone looks back at those bills, unsuccessful as they were, I want them to see in the list of opposition testimony some name that says next to it, representing the Maine UU State Advocacy Network. Engaging in legislative advocacy has also given me a gift I didn't expect to get, and that is bringing my faith into sharper focus. I've begun to appraise the laws and policies of this state, both existing and proposed, through the lens of my UU faith, and to speak out loud the connection I see there. In the process, I've come to understand the values and principles that define my UU identity, not just in my head or that card I carry around in my wallet, but in the real world, in how those principles are actuated or thwarted by the laws that govern so much of our interaction with each other and our environment. I can now say that our second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, means something much more specific and urgent to me after having gone to Augusta and advocated for a bill to end the still existing shameful exclusion of otherwise eligible adult immigrants from Maine Care strictly because of their immigration status. See me after the service if you would like to engage in a little bit of quick advocacy on that bill. I've got postcards. Likewise, our second principle's inherent worth and dignity of every person has living embodiment for me after being one of hundreds of UUs across the state, no doubt including some of you, activated last year by Mooson to urge legislative support for a tribal sovereignty bill, a bill sadly still on hold. We are called as UUs not only to help our immediate neighbors in need, but also, as Reverend Tara reminds us, to strive to change the systems and structures at the root of that need, however long that takes. And the indigenous people of this state can certainly attest to the fact that this is sometimes a very long game. As Reverend Jody Hayashida, former minister of the Auburn UU Church, reminded Mooson members recently about the need to persist in our legislative ministry, she said, "Our faith tradition is that of people of hope, not simply optimism. Optimism assumes our goals will somehow be reached, but hope tells us that no piece of good is ever wasted." I love that. No piece of good is ever wasted, and that we must go on doing the right thing because we know it is the right thing to do. When we follow our principles into legislative ministry, working for laws and policies that promote the health and well-being of everyone in Maine, which counteract bigotry, xenophobia, and oppression, protect our environment from further degradation, and strengthen our democracy, I believe we model that hope. So I will not stop fishing garbage out of the river before it reaches the sea, just so long as it keeps floating on down the stream toward us, and my arms can reach some part of it. But thanks to Mooson, I will also joyfully and faithfully go up the river to Augusta to help change a system that still lets garbage end up in the river to start with.
Resilient and resourceful enough to say yes to that call, to make it our lives work in 1,000 different ways, knowing that we can do no other than bind ourselves more tightly together and throw ourselves into the holy work of showing up again and again to be part of building that world of which we dream, but which we have not seen quite yet. Our worship has ended and our service begins. May your flame of love and liberation burn bright until we meet again. Go in hope.